Guys, now we are going back here from European Mitrovica to European Pristina. It's a wonderful Friday evening. There is prom night here. They are going to a big party to celebrate the end of the high school times, but they are going on this kind of road. It's not good enough. It needs really to get serious here with highway development also between Mitrovica and between Pristina, because this is the same highway I was driving 20 years ago when I came first time here 2002 and now it's 20 years I'm active in Kosovo since the first trip in April 2002, and then we have the same driving conditions on this road. I know it's getting better, there was a lot to be done, but this is simply, one of the most important connections, and it's still under construction 20 years later. This is not good enough. I go now, in 2006, I made the study for North Mitrovica, and one of the many reports, I know the head of the EU delegation called it a fantasy report, because I was calling for a highway from Pristina to Novi Pazar to develop the north. And still 20 years ago we are in this driving condition. He is probably retired, the Italian, and we have the situation that I still call for the Novi Pazar highway, because we need a Pristina-Sarajevo peace highway, please. It's so logical, and we need to get this done, and we need to get a bit faster, because the unity of this country inside Europe requires also to have economic development, because then the people believe in the future of the republic, which is a very good republic, because it has all this potential. But there must be the reality now must be good as well, otherwise everybody leaves and runs away to Switzerland or Norway or elsewhere in the European Union, and that's not the idea. Here they are building, very good. Can you be a bit faster? Here is also something happening, very good. Can you be a bit faster? And we need also to have railway capacities, and not to have a feasibility study what could be done in 20 years, but to really build these things. And we need to be a bit more serious with ourselves, not to pretend to enlarge, but to really enlarge. Because look at it, we have huge mineral resources, and we have all this potential for the construction material industry, and also this huge mineral wealth. And let me make the case now again. We have this trillion worth of mineral resources here in Kosovo in terms of coal and the mining complex called Trepča and all its related zinc and lead and other materials which are here really at current market evaluation. It's €1 trillion of wealth which is happening here underneath this beautiful land. And of course it cannot be lifted immediately, and it takes a long time, but we have to get started. And how to get started? We must clarify the peace settlement here for the Balkans, everybody in NATO, EU and the Euro. We must have clarity here also for governance, and then for property rights, and for the old legacy issues of the past. And that's the task of the European Union. Who else? Here one of the stray dogs. And situation must be that we cannot continue to tumble rudderless through our own destiny, but it's very clear what needs to be happen. NATO, EU, Euro, everything very logically, and the present state structure as a membership then in the European Union, and that means very clear Kosovo in the EU, Serbia in the EU, Bosnia in the EU, and obviously all NATO members in the EU, and of course also Ukraine and Moldova and Georgia. And here comes also the issue with energy. Look, it's all really absolutely fine if we want to have very clean environment. I'm very much in favor. But here is now the big energy problem here. We have mainly, of course, coal energy here as natural resources. We have one hydropower project over there, which we don't use. The Iberle-Benz, the Shur, not the Shur, but this is another project coming. But then we have this big river, the Iber. It is dammed, and it's producing very little energy. That's a big problem. And then we have mostly coal, but we have not really invested in the upgrades in the technology, and not in the third block, the so-called Kosovo Sea, because we don't like coal. Okay, but we can still use coal, and even Germany is prolonging now the coal, because we don't want to use Russian gas. And so, and Kosovo cannot use its coal, really? And we can have still continuous blackout and energy problems in the summer and in the winter in a country where basically which is built on coal, and we don't have the technology to do lignite in a decent way. That's a bit ridiculous ultimately. I think we should really get a bit more serious with ourselves, because we cannot rely only on imports. Yeah? Here there's coal resources. Then let's deconstruct some of the coal thermal power plants which the Germans or the Austrians don't want, and bring them here to European technology standards and run them and produce energy with the coal that there is. Obviously we need to do it like this. And we have to be serious in our approach. We must be somehow consistent. When there is a problem, we cannot just delay it. We have to tackle it. And when there is potential, we have to lift it. This is the task of policymakers. Here, for example, we need a highway. They are building it very slowly. Give them more money, they will build it faster. Here there is the Kosovo A and B. Here you see it very well. Yeah? Here you can see these are the two thermal power blocks which Yugoslavia has built in 1950s and 1960s. Yeah? They are basically renovated some ways, but still operating at the level of technology of the past, because in the last 20 years we were just able to maintain them and do upgrades, yes. But we have not been able, together with the Kosovo authorities, UNMIK and the whole world together, not to build a third block. I'm not talking about something fantasy here, but just a third coal block. And then we say no coal, no coal. This is not good enough. This is not serious policy. This is very, very bad result. And still the main production capacities are these two power plants. And of course I'm very much for green and clean and wind and everything, but let's do it. If we wait another 20 years and then watch on that we have basically the same generation capacity, actually losing generation capacity, just adding a bit of wind and solar is not good enough. While we are sitting on a huge coal mine here, the whole country is basically a coal mine and a metal resource. That's the geography. And that is the situation. So we need to somehow work on our potential and lifting the potential, but also investing in it. And then to say, okay, we cannot do it, we have no money for highways. Really? We just spent about 60 billion alone in Austria to soften the blow of the corona shock. That money we seriously had. Or we didn't have, but we added on debt. Yeah? But for Kosovo, we don't have €1 billion for peace deal in the north. That will basically the revitalization cost. Yeah? Or we don't have whatever 100 million to fund the extension of such a block. Or will it cost $500 million? Man, this is all feasible amounts of money. And then we have suddenly a third block and the generation capacity will double. It was all possible, technically feasible, economically, but no, because of our political internal confusion and our conflicts in kind of directions and objectives and strategic misconceptions, we miss such opportunities. And then 20 years after I come and 23 years after the war, we are still in a situation where the production capacity of energy is the same like it was, where we have just the last 15 kilometers here to Pristina, we have as a 4-lane, not even a highway, and then we say, okay, it's no wonder that we are somehow not taken serious by the world, because our key problems which we have. And when you look in the history of Europe, the Balkans was obviously a big challenge, and it has never gone away by ignoring it. It was exploding in our faces in the First World War and in the Second World War. And of course it was a big conflict point during the Cold War. And then when you have it exploding in the 90s, and then you have 20 years of peace, and we somehow have just contained the situation. We have of course made major progress in NATO-backed enlargement with Albania, Macedonia and Montenegro. God bless America for that, and also Bosnia and Kosovo should be in NATO, and this is the only logical way to do it. And we need to get this done. We cannot waste so much time, and we cannot wait another 20 years. Yeah? Now we see exactly what happens when we're waiting, because all the time I worked in Ukraine from 2016 to 2020, I was calling out for NATO, for the Euro, for EU, and if we would have done it, of course, I know that Mr. Lambsdorff says then we would have war immediately. If that war is anyhow the consequence of all this, then why didn't we have it without 5 years before? And by the way, we had 4 already from 2014 onwards. Yeah? If we need to wage it, then better wage it from the beginning, but let's get fully engaged. Yeah? Because now we are anyhow engaged in this whole mess, and we are now not prepared. We have de-armed and we have not really prepared. And the only way to contain such a threat is militarily, by basically securing free Ukraine. And the same is here as we have done it now with Kosovo, because basically we secure the country anyhow and its borders via the KFOR. And I called for that a long time ago in the case of Ukraine. Anyhow, don't get me started on all these things. It's a big mess, our foreign policy in ex-Yugoslavia and in the ex-Soviet Union, and we're paying a huge price. And when you see what are the costs of the whole disaster now, alone since February to now, 3 months, and we're talking already about $500 billion of damage, and then attached possibly $500 billion of reconstruction and of the whole consequences of the war, and the huge costs which the war has on our energy and agriculture system, which Putin is taking hostage, and who can assess the cost of these inflationary factors on our social system. These are huge, unprecedented costs since the end of the Cold War, at least, if not the Vietnam War. These are huge disasters which are affecting us because of our failed foreign policy of thinking we can somehow balance with Russia and we can avoid to integrate Ukraine and the Balkans, which Mrs. Merkel personally has had this wonderful kind of idea to just put everything on the long stretch in order to sit out the challenge of Putin. And as we have seen, it has not worked. It worked out for her personally, but it didn't work out all over. And we are in this huge, enormously expensive, not only in terms of life and the huge personal and human misery of the many deaths in the war in Ukraine, and also the huge cost financially for Ukraine, but for the whole global system. The whole global system is hammered by the huge inflationary shock, by the huge energy prices, by the huge agricultural prices. And this is all the consequences of the failed foreign policy since 2013, since Croatia joined the European Union, our last real highlight. And since then, we have continuously left the stage for Russia to set the agenda, and the ultimate agenda setting point, obviously, the full-scale escalation into the second Ukraine war in 2022, and the huge consequences for our system. We will no doubt win, we will also recover from it, but imagine how much cheaper it would have been to do the right thing from the day one. Because the cost for Ukraine integration to European standards were, according to the assessment just of September 2021, 277 billion. And now we are probably talking about 4 times that amount. And then you say, Günther, you want €1 billion for the north of Kosovo to lift the trillion of assets and to get peace here? I say that's a very good price. And anyhow, we pay much more. We will have to pay much more also to Serbia in such a peace deal. And making peace is of course expensive. But of course, as we have seen here, and we see it everywhere, that from a really disaster you can build a very nice country here in Kosovo in just 20 years. And it was not so expensive, and we have invested only minimal here compared to what we should do. And that is absolutely the problem, that we always try to chicken out against the aggression. We are underinvesting when it is needed before, and then in the end the price is huge indirectly because of our failed foreign policy. And that is the legacy which I can just repeat we should learn from. We should be more proactive, and we should be also able to not just contain the security challenges for the moment, but to have the long-term integration also done successfully. And then always we have to cry for the Americans when the fire is there. They come to extinguish us and help us, but for the long term we should be in charge, and we should also be able to do things somehow decently. Again, I think here you see very good the energy system of Kosovo. Still, here, wow, that's the heating system. That's this Kosovo Bay A and B. I've made in the time of Austrian Kosovo Society many reports about it, and I called always for Kosovo Sea, and I come back and it's cancelled. And I see the same lead mountain like I saw the last time, and it's not that I'm frustrated. No, it's very good. But it could be a bit better, much better indeed. Okay, we are heading back now to Pristina. There's still a little bit of sun to make some video. I'm in this very good and motivated taxi driver, and I'm saying this is European Kosovo. And please, whenever you are listening and you want to do something decent for Kosovo, I recommend very much to lift the mineral resources by making a peace settlement, offer the recognition deal with the euro to Serbia, and make sure that we have also the investment capital here from the state and from the public authorities and to work for disadvantaged regions. That's, by the way, the tomb of Sultan Murad from the Kosovo Polje. We are now entering Pristina. You can see it, yes, absolutely. Here is the highway. Here's the big highway to the north. They call it the Peace Highway. I really wonder if Serbia will build its part in Budejevo, and they even underdeveloped their own south, and so. But anyhow, Mr. Michel has a jab up with Vucic, and we are in a big mess. Yeah, so good. I hope there will be better times coming, and I'm confident there will. But we need to change the European policy approach towards Kosovo and towards Serbia, towards enlargement, towards Ukraine. And I hope the coming next weeks will bring one of the big achievements in terms of clarity on the enlargement agenda. And that would be, of course, much better than keeping on this kind of fake, this kind of miserable, let's call it like this, this kind of delay and procrastination and postponement agenda of the last years since Croatia joined the European Union, which was, of course, very much only serving the Russian interest and the French interest and the interest of all enemies of Europe. And then we have very negative results, of course, with that one. And I hope that there will be now wisdom. Here, this is also on my podcast already. I showed you this famous thing. That's on the right was now the Sultan Murad of the Kosovo Polje, and that's the monument. And it's a historic place over there where Milosevic was holding the 600 years anniversary event. And it is, of course, a place where he was riling up the people and declaring war against the rest of Yugoslavia here on the 28th of June 1989. And he came here to basically win power in Serbia by riling up Serb nationalism and declaring war against Kosovo, Bosnia, Croatia. And it's no coincidence, just next year after his speech, he made the big bank theft, this 1.5 billion euro dollar loan of the Yugoslavian Central Bank to the Central Bank of Serbia. That was the economic end of Yugoslavia. And then he basically started the Slovenian War, he started the Croatian War, he waged the Bosnian War in '92 in all brutality, and it all started here in this tragic day of the 28th of June in 1989, when the rest of Europe was liberating freedom, and they also saw it. And that's, by the way, the highway here, the real highway starts. This is really very good highway to Skopje and also to Albania. This is the energetic system over there again. No, that's one of the big factories. I think that's Kek was over there. This is Kek, and that's the other big industrial facility. I have to check my knowledge about that one. And you see there is all this legacy assets. I think it's also Kek. That's both Kek, yeah. That's both the energy asset. That is the coal, A and B. I think it's like this. Yeah, that's the idea, if I'm correct, but I don't know for sure now. So now we are entering here, and it's also very impressive because we can see also then the new embassy building. Because here in Pristina we have a good European embassy directly behind the government building. That's very good. But also then the Americans have recently invested a huge, I think it was up to now the biggest public investment in Kosovo after the highways. It is the American embassy, which you can see now in a moment, and it was over $200 million invested in this beautiful project of this American embassy, Pristina. And that was good. That was very, very good. It is happening here on that side. This is now the northern entry of Pristina. I think you have not seen that one. on my podcast because I have shown you mostly I'm coming from the south or from Tirana. This is somebody running over the motorway. That's not the idea. Road safety needs to be improved. And you can see here this beautiful last hill above Pristina. You see that a lot of SMEs have really developed very good. That's the real driver of economic change. It's the SMEs, the construction material, the car manufacturer, not the car retailers less, but the construction material sector, very good. I recommended that in 2005, and also the furniture sector, very good, and also everything connected with agricultural products and with the whole sector of the fruit juice and the whole related agriculture and food chain upwards sector. That's also working very good. And of course the construction material sector. These are also exporting a lot, and they are very successful. And here we are now in the hill above Pristina, going into that beautiful town from the top. And here we can see the success of freedom. The people are relatively unmolested, have monetary security with the euro, and they have obviously here then the 10% tax rate. We are now above Dragodan, and here's the KFOR base on the left. And here we see also then this commercial area outlet. Exfis is one of the petrol companies. And then you see a lot of residential buildings coming very soon when we are now moving to the area of the American embassy. And we are going, not crossing, bypassing, but basically then crossing into the city from the north. This is a very, very good system of transit and access roads, very much contrary to Tirana, which is very messy exit and entry system, and it's still not regulated well. And here actually why they have not fixed that one, I don't know. But here you see also these amazing roundabouts at the city entrance. It's going very systematically well. You see here somebody doing whatever he wants. And then we have here this amazing American embassy with this huge embassy compound, which is the expression of the American support for European Kosovo. And we can just be grateful for our American friends that they are taking Kosovo very seriously. Here, over there, you see the KFOR. You don't see it very well, but here is the KFOR camp up there. It's the whole hill is military here, a lot of residential, and this is the huge American embassy. And that's, by the way, Spar, the Austrian-German chain. It's now here. That's very good. And that's also this American embassy. Very big, impressive building. Very huge compound, now fully finished, very beautifully done with stone and according to the most modern standards, very beautiful. You see also here the municipality building and the huge residential expression of the emerging middle class, because all this is based on a working cadastre, on a working financial system, on credits from banks like ProCredit and Raiffeisen and other banks. And then when this system works, the property sector lifts the population up the next normal level of prosperity. The emerging middle class of Pristina is buying these apartments, and it's working. Obviously, much is also done by people who made it abroad and co-invest then back into the property market. Property prices here about 1,100 euros per square meter, my best information. 1,200 maybe, even maybe higher now. We have to see how the prices are developing, but that was at least 1 year ago, the information. Maybe not the most accurate now. But here you see that things are really impressively moving forward. This is the back of the hill called Dragodan, now it's called Aberi, and it's a very, very nice area with huge residential high-class development. Here one friend of mine has bought the apartment, very, very nice, and they are doing just fine. And there is the Austrian embassy over there, and here you see already the hill above. You see the boom town, how it's happening. Oh, so many big town. You know, I call it Manhattan. No, it's Manhattan of. Yeah, in a way it is. It's really big. They have these 30-floor buildings. Of course, you know, in Kiev it's a bigger city, you know, bigger market. It's just 2 million people here. It's not 40 million. This is the Austrian embassy here, and here's the former compound of the American embassy. The Austrian embassy here. Please, Austria, join NATO. Please, please, NATO. The NATO flag must be lifted. Yeah, that's also a very big development. I've never seen that one. That's really huge. Wow, very good, very good. Yeah, Kosovo is moving forward. The construction sector is booming. The middle class is booming. You see this beautiful bakery, also very beautiful. This is now the hill into Pristina, and you have seen that's the high-class residential development of the times of former Yugoslavia here. This mostly individual houses and a lot of embassies here. And then you're heading into the town here, and you see this beautiful Amadeus. I was sitting often there, and here then we are back in the city, crossing the city here for the Jaffa it's called, and then we will be back in the city and back in the stadium area. I've shown you this stadium already. Here is where we had the Eximkos in the beginning, then here the government building, and here of course what is missing, I always called for a central park in Pristina, my long-term favorite project, but nobody is listening to me on that one. But the central park is really missing. This is, by the way, the railway system of the past, which has never been built. There would be the potential for light rail, for a tramway. It's one of the cities without tramway, and that's of course a big problem for public transport. And the Yugoslavian authorities have really completely underinvested into the city, and that's a big problem. Here you see another of these industrial legacies of the past, Mekanisimi, a big brown land in the middle of the town. I say erase it and build a beautiful central park instead. But okay, well, let's see for that. More to come. I will say goodbye now. I say I think tomorrow on the way to Skopje I will give you more updates also on Macedonia's development. Thanks a lot for listening, and more to come here from Pristina. And now the sun is setting, and this is my last video for today. Thanks a lot for listening. Bye.